Really?
Don't give me that superior face. I don't know jack shit. You've had how many years?
Hello!
We are Annie and Konstantin.
And you're watching another episode of...
Updates.
There's a valuable lesson in here. This is all the things you will have to sift through while editing.
And now everything is hard. We're gonna get you a hat.
It's nothing important, no big deal.
That is a lie.
I'm gonna cut you with a piece of paper. What? We're wild. Oh yeah. I might have to tell you something. You can read me like an open book, can't you? I have had to agree upon that under the threat of being cut by paper. I think that there is a noun to that verb you just created.
Wait, we need to...
You do? Since when you do media?
Since you pulled me into this life of crime. I mean, it's not like you didn't have this, plotted and planned. This was your goal all along. You were like, yeah, let's have her do education and English and some psychology, and then I'll usurp her. So there's this kind of weird shift in dynamic happening at KA headquarters right now, where Konstantin is basically checked out because, he's going to Israel and he's doing all these important work things, and he taught me how to edit a little bit, so now suddenly I'm in charge. It's like, you built the camera and the light. You tell us when we do the update. You do all the things. I'm just gonna sit here and smirk knowingly in a superior way, because I've studied all of this and I actually have, professional knowledge, while you are just bumbling about. But what you didn't calculate for in your evil plan is that I'm going back to school. I got admitted to Stuttgart Media University, where I'm going to be completing the Master of Media Research for a research project that I submitted and created myself. So, I'm gonna become a media person yet, and then I can build a light without feeling silly. And I can set up a camera without feeling profoundly like the English major I am, because I'm gonna have a degree in this shit.
And the cool thing is that while Annie starts doing her research master, I am finishing my master. So I'm going to start writing my master thesis here in a couple of weeks, with the intention to be able to transfer the knowledge I have gained into her work. So we're like academic professionalists. So I won't feel bad because I'm usually the grunt with a camera on the shoulder who can't do much more than, finagle, like the technical stuff, but I'm going to be a scientist. Academician. Yes.
The truly exciting part is, too, that we are now coordinating our master's theses, because I'm actually starting to plot mine already, because I'm working on a project, so my thesis project is my entire master, basically. So now we get to, sit around in public places discussing how our master's theses can, cooperate and build on each other, and how we can use all of that to go into our doctoral degrees and, world domination. Which is very fun.
It is.
I missed academia. I'm glad to be back.
But besides that, I'm preparing for my trip to Israel with my brother and my mom. Since I'm going away for 2 weeks, I've been doing work stuff for basically the last week, with not much fun or KA work in between. So I can, go on a vacation with a certain peace of mind and then return to do all the KA stuff at once.
While Konstantin is adventuring out in the wide world, I'm going to be adventuring here. So for the next couple of weeks, updates is going to be just me. I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet. I might get myself a guest. I might go on adventures. I don't know. If you have any questions or cool ideas of what I should do, you should absolutely tweet at me and let me know, or post in the comments, or, talk to me some other
Well, a thing that occurred to me once again this week is perspectives and relationships between worldviews. What I mean by that is, I think on a personal level experiences, a thing that occurred to me is how incredibly subjective everything is. For instance, me being a little bit stressed out because of the vacation, also because I kinda finance it on a very tight budget, and it comes down to the whole trip is going to cost about 1,000 euro. And this amount of money is completely different depending on the perspective, because it's not much money for being able to go out to a foreign country and having your housing covered, having your travel expenses covered, having, basically everything covered. But in my life, in my current living situation, it's a whole lot of money. But compared to, my peers who are already working, it's not a lot. And compared to literally billions of people, this is an amount of money they will never being able in a position to spend freely. There are so many people in the world who will never be able to do that. We're living in such a schizophrenic world for everybody. And there is no actual positive message to get from here except from be aware that, your problems are really ought to be put into perspective. And of all the things in the world, money is a big concern but shouldn't be. Something like that. It's very, very, I think it's a trite epiphany, but just a thing that went through my head the last couple of days.
Everything is easier with long arms, isn't it?
Yeah.
I joked this week that it's entirely possible that I'm a supernatural being and we need to, take that into account. I really don't want to do any more mental health themed epiphanies. It just keeps coming up. So I think we just need to kind of embrace the fact that this is a subject that's going to keep being present in my mind, at least for, a couple weeks more or something. So I've been strange this week in a new way. I've always been very, very sensitive. I always respond very strongly to things. And for the past few years, I've connected that immediately to depression and anxiety. I'm really, really sensitive, so everything bothers me, which leads to depression and anxiety. Or else I'm depressed and I'm anxious, so I'm picking up on everything that could possibly be bad and turning it into terrible things. So it's been very, very strange to be very, very sensitive this week without it really being a depression thing or an anxiety thing. I wasn't sad, I wasn't scared, I wasn't any of these things. I was just very sensitive, and that was kind of overwhelming. So I was thinking about the word normal, which, again, depending on the context, is either a terrible thing, it's just, normal, it's basic, it's boring, it's whatever. But most of the time, especially in a health context, normal is what you strive for. Normal is the ideal. You want to be as normal as possible. And that's where we get in trouble every time. And not just with mental illness, but with any sort of chronic illness, with any sort of disability, you have that idea of normal that you should strive for, that you should be. And if you're not normal, then you're faulty. Then you're doing something wrong. Then there's something broken. There's something that needs to be fixed. And that's troublesome because sometimes it can't be fixed. Sometimes it's, most of the time, really, when it comes to any sort of chronic health condition of any kind, you can't just take a pill and make it go away. That idea of normal, of being a normal person and leading a normal life is very, very difficult because for some of us that creates a standard, creates a thing to strive for that we just can't achieve I'm always gonna be a little crazy. I'm always gonna be a little sensitive and very intense, and I'm always gonna be prone to sadness, to being scared, to all those things. The problem with that whole notion of normal is that we neglect perspectives, because there might be something not normal about your health situation, but that doesn't make you lesser of a human. That doesn't make your experience less true, and that doesn't make your insights less valid. In fact, it makes them even more useful, because if we all had the same perspective, the same insight, the same basic framework, the same way of entering and looking at the world, we'd really only need one of us. And the things that you can't find, the things that you can't think of, I wouldn't be able to think of either. The fact that we are all different, the fact that we all enter the world in different ways and see it differently, perceive it differently, and think of it differently, is the strength of the human race. We are over 7 billion individuals who all have different frameworks and different perspectives and different normals. And our personal normal still changes basically every day. And that's a good thing. It would be great if you had all of the energy and all of the sanity and all of the whatever, but sometimes you can't have that, and then you gotta deal with that. And that doesn't make your life forfeit. That just means you're living in a different perspective, in a different framework now. And I'm having a week of accepting and embracing the power of that and the goodness of that. Should we do a close-up on your face?
So people, while I'm gone, I want you to remember this. I want you to let it sink into your subconsciousness. This is a thing you won't be seeing for 2 weeks, and I know it is hard. I mean, I wouldn't know what I would do if I weren't able to look into the mirror a couple of times a day. And now you have to, suffer for weeks. And a rerun of the updates, it's just not the same. I know. It will be